So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ieva, and today I will give a business perspective from the Telenor side on very interesting but very complex topic, which is AI and ethics. Telenor is one of the largest Norwegian companies and also one of the largest mobile operators in the world. So mobile connectivity on your phones, data services, and many other internet services are provided by us. We have our mission to empower societies and connect you to what matters most. So this topic is at the very, very heart of what we do, and I will try to give a little glimpse of what it is for a business company to talk and do AI ethics. Let me start with one experiment that we have done about a year ago. We actually faked our CEO. 1 year ago, it took us 30,000 images, and I think around 2 weeks of work of engineering to make a pretty decent video with a CEO talking as if that was him about the very interesting and important topic of business. Back in the days, it was still known and we could see this is just fake. Today, when we faked our executive vice president, it took us 5 minutes and it took us only 1 image. What did we learn? We learned 3 things. Number 1, technology is moving extremely fast. It's much faster than a regulation. And what it means is that we as a company have a responsibility to protect our customers and our employees and societies at large beyond what a law requires. So this is ethics. Ethics is something which is not written in law. It's something that you have an obligation to do right and to avoid bad. So this is the first thing we learn. It's extremely fast. We need to act not only lawfully, but ethically. Number 2, what we've learned also that ethics for a business company like Telenor is a continuous dilemma. It's always a dilemma. As we mentioned, and as Professor Russell also mentioned today, it's a dilemma. Should we automate more and more of our workloads in engineers and that actually fix networks and make sure you have great connectivity? Or should we allow more and more automated work with AI? It's always a dilemma for a socially responsible company. It is and will be. So solving these dilemmas is going to be a continuous business challenge. And third, as a company with more than 200 million customers and $8 billion revenues annually, we have a research department who continuously serve our company to experiment. So you need to experiment, you need to learn, you need to challenge as we did that with the technology. Otherwise, there's no chance to be ahead. Experiment, be ethical, and make sure you understand that you're solving ethical dilemmas. So in essence, ethics, or AI ethics, is about increasing the amount of opportunities that this technology is bringing versus reducing the amount of risks. I actually like one of the great articles that one of the professors of Oxford University, Fioridi, made. And he says, what is AI ethics? AI ethics is really a debate around 3 complex dilemmas. On the one hand, underusing the technology is a bad behavior. You should actually be always in the front and use. And this gentleman on the left, punching on the elevator and not using a technology, is actually a non-ethical behavior. You should always use where it's possible. Misusing AI is also a high ethical risk. Deepfakes are a huge risk. 80% of the world's population this year goes to election. It's a great risk making sure that we actually protect our citizens and democracy from misusing the AI technology. And the last point he's making is that overusing AI is also a huge ethical problem. We have to make sure within the cultures that we operate and the legal framework that we have, that we're not overusing. We're actually using the technology to solve the problems of humanity. So this is actually a nice way of summarizing. Now, what's the fuss about AI? Why have we started talking about AI ethics globally? I would even argue that this debate today became a global discourse. And there are a couple reasons. Today we talked a lot about autonomy. Question is, will we allow human be in the loop? Example from the business side. We have network engineers, thousands of network engineers, every day making sure that the network is always up, that the network is up to speed at the right level, at the right speed and the right quality. Because you customers, you are future generations, you want that and you expect that almost like a human right. How will we use technology? And we use more and more because machine learning and Gen AI today is much more powerful. It's better than humans to calculate immense amount of data. We are not, and our engineers are not able. But the trust for a network engineer on recommendation given by AI to tune the network, give more actually capacity to a particular area and particular time, we are not yet there. So the trust is still an issue. Autonomy is still an ethical dilemma. Robustness, a lot has been talked about. Is it safe? Telenor alone, in all our operations, every quarter, we stop 500 million of attacks on our customer. 500 million of fake SMSs, fake phone calls is where we're stopping. And you know what? 90% of those attempts are not generated by humans. Those are generated by AIs. So we as a company have a responsibility to build technology and use technology to respond so that we make you safe and secure. Fairness. Is it fair? And Jill talked about biases. I mean, how we are able to detect the hidden biases in the data, in the models, and in the outputs. My approach to that is education. We have no chance, in my opinion, to be up to speed if we're not educating ourselves to be competent and critical thinkers. Explainability. Justin just explained us how explainability is important. And we know we cannot explain these large, fast machine learning models today. So how do we handle when we actually do credit loan checks in Telenor, in our Asian markets particularly, making sure that our customers are going to pay back and pay for the services? We actually increasingly are challenged because we're not able to explain how these models came to conclusions. So we have a responsibility to solve that ethical dilemma as well. And transparency. Today, we talked about ChatGPT's voice boards. They're becoming much more intelligent. As a company, how and at which level we need to be transparent. There are trade secrets, there are IP rights, there are a lot of issues around transparency. So these are ethical dilemmas. And if you're not convinced, there's a regulation coming in saying that in Europe, at least, a place where we protect fundamental rights of humans, there is actually going to be a regulation. So for Telenor, I mean, it's a huge, and any company, if you're not actually meeting the rules, if you are violating the rules, it's up to 7% or from 3 to 7% of fines. So in Telenor, with $8 billion annual revenue, so you can start calculating it's 400,000 million US dollar fines. We don't want that. So this regulation will, of course, structure the work, will make us much more adept. And if you're still not convinced that regulation will make you think of ethics more structurally, there is an investor calling. And this is actually a quote from Nikolai Tangen. is saying, as an investor, we view responsible development of AI as a core element of responsible business conduct, which means that our investors, looking at the future companies, ask questions. And how are you deploying AI technology responsibly? How do you make it safe? How do you make it secure? How do you make it non-biased? This is actually coming. My quote is, I truly believe that the future customers that are sitting here in this audience will probably choose companies very soon because of the commitment to responsible use of the AI. And can also responsible AI be our new services? So I would like to finish with some examples on how we in Telenor address the very complex topic of AI ethics and maybe a little bit regulation. We have developed our responsible AI principles, which every company in this part of the world, and not only probably did. But we took almost 6 months to do that because we wanted to connect this to our code of conduct that every employee of Telenor connects to. We are also creating playbooks and tools for data scientists, data engineers, business managers, privacy officers to know how are actually you going to use the technology that is not violating law, that is ethically compliant with our ethical code and principles. And these are things from code to practices, guidelines, all different toolings. We actually meet the big players of the world. I'm talking the Googles and Facebooks of the world. We are sitting with them and other industries of Norway at the same table and try to convince of the new standards. So I'm very happy to hear when the minister and the prime minister talked about international regulation or international collaboration. I think companies as Telenor have a fantastic opportunity to be brokerages and actually bring the big players at the table talking about this. And last, as I gave an example of these hundreds of millions stopped attacks by using AI, we will continue to do our work, making sure that we're securing our critical infrastructure. So, to finally conclude, I hope you also will be inspired today by knowing that this technology brings enormous opportunities. Multimodal voice bots, not only in Norwegian, with multiple dialects that you can actually call customer service. This will be served by AI. That's what we're doing. Sustainability. We talked about it today. We know that these large AI models will consume a lot of energy, but they're also a very important scientific field saying how can we reduce energy by doing smaller models, equally important. So we actually proved that in our infrastructure, we're using AI models to reduce up to 15% of energy use in our networks. And finally, security. It will be continuously an important topic for Norway, for Europe, and for the world. And I think industry players, together with public actors and scientific community, has a very, very important role to play. Thank you very much.